Welcome back to Uninformed Movie Reviews. It is your hosts, the Uninformed Movie Comrades, Frank and David, and little old Danny over there coming at ya.
Pew pew. Those that are not watching, I have finger guns up.
He does.
Yeah, you should always assume he's got some finger guns hidden. He's a little shifty.
I have concealed carry.
Today's going to be fun. Today, we're going to talk about movies that are based on video games. And it'll be fun because sometimes it's more fun to talk about things that are bad than it is to talk about things that are good.
Yeah. Otherwise known as the Let's Hate on Paul W.S. Anderson Hour.
So we're going to be the classic T3B3 format today. For those unfamiliar with the podcast, if you want to familiarize yourself with the T3B3, just go watch one or all of them. Like, share, and subscribe.
Ooh, to differentiate from last year's video games about movies. This is different.
Oh,
we switched it
yes,
up,
this is
we're going
contrast.
the other way this time. reverse, if you will. And let's see who wants to go. Or are we doing tops first, bottoms first?
I think bottom.
Yeah, let's go.
Here
bottoms.
we go. Always bottoms first.
Always bottoms
and
first. That's
Frank,
the motto here.
That's right. Frank's a power bottom, so he goes first.
I generate the power from the bottom. It's harder than you think.
It's a lot of work.
Who wants to hit us with their B3?
I'll do it. I'll do the B3. Everyone, the B3 is a channel favorites. I know you love it. We love it. And it's still at the bottom of my worst video game adaptation movies list. It's the Super Mario Brothers
How
movie.
Exciting!
It's a blast.
David,
this is also mine.
Really?
It's also mine. How joyous! Oh my goodness!
We did it.
I almost thought this was going to be sacrilegious to have it down here. I thought you guys were going to get pissed at me.
Well, that's why it's a number 3, you know?
It's a number 3, but also it is a bad movie. Just because I love it doesn't mean it's not bad.
Yeah,
you know?
it's real bad.
It's one of the things I like about the movie.
Like, even when I saw it when I was like 5 and I loved Mario, I knew it was a bad movie. And I didn't have a big judge of character of what a good movie was when I was 5.
Yeah. It
doesn't take a lot of brain power for this one.
I must have seen this in the 90s because I had it on VHS.
Makes sense.
And I liked the movie as a kid, but I always remember thinking, what does this have to do with Mario Bros? Like, I was so confused about, except when the Bomb comes out, then you're like, okay, yeah, I know that guy.
Oh, they've got the red and green outfits, I guess.
So, I mean, we went over this. We already did a review of this movie, like, separately.
Yeah.
You can check out the Character Limit Extended.
Just stats again for quick refresher, I suppose.
Ooh, you know what? Give us the stats here, yeah.
We got a 4.1 out of 10 on IMDb for this bad boy. 24% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is one of the fairer scores we've seen on Rotten Tomatoes. That one feels pretty good to me. Maybe lower, you know. Box office wise, we are talking about a budget of $48 million to make this terrible looking movie with an opening weekend of $8 million. Worldwide
Dude, that's
gross,
a lot of money.
$20 million.
That's pretty cool. I mean, that's a lot of money. You gotta also think, though, that people were tricked. You know, they went in expecting magic. And this is one of the first video game adaptations, if not like the very first, at least one of this caliber, like of a name.
Yeah, this is
the reason why Nintendo didn't make movies for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, they're barely making another Mario movie, and they're going like the DreamWorks route or something. It's going to be animated, like CGI animated, which makes sense.
And for me, that's exactly why I landed on number 3, because without it, it's a pioneer, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Without it, we wouldn't have gotten all these other ones, but it also goes on the bottom because it is bad, and without it, we wouldn't have all these other ones. We're going to come to find today, it's not so easy to make a movie based on a video game.
There's just a couple things I have to point out. The first one is, I don't think the movie looks bad. I actually think it's got a really interesting aesthetic.
I guess when I talk about the terrible look, I'm talking about the Goombas.
Yeah, like
and Koopa and King Koopa.
And I might not have a problem with them if I'm not just actively comparing it to like a magical world that is Mario. And I think some parts of the movie are like legitimately fun. I love anytime Dennis Hopper is a bad guy. Like I'm in at least at that much.
That's fair.
Even Land of the Dead, I'll watch it because of Dennis Hopper.
This movie's got kind of like obviously this comparison movie came out way further later, but it's got the Dragon Ball Evolution problem where it's like there's some really good source material to go off of, and who was your prop designer? Who was your costume designer? Because were they even looking? It came nowhere close.
That's funny because for me, source material is going to be a big problem on that one for me.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I think it's kind of, I don't know why they started with this one. Out of all the Nintendo stuff you could have done, I feel like there were so many more that, like, I feel like Zelda would have been more easily translatable into a film than Mario Bros.
And it was in a way,
it's better
like
that
you're
they
just
did
coming off of like the 80s like fantasy swing. It could have worked.
Yeah. Totally could have
It's better that they didn't, though. Like, let's think about it. Like, with the technology they had back then, I don't think that Zelda could have came out as great as it was. As it will probably come out. Because they're doing a Netflix series for Zelda, right?
I think that's a lie. I don't know. I think it might be like an internet thing that's not true. But we'll have to check it out.
How old is Zelda supposed to be?
Well, Zelda or Link?
Oh, Link, sorry.
Dad mistakes over here.
Yeah.
I don't know how old Link's, but the other thing that's confusing is that every Legend of Zelda, with the exception of a few, are set hundreds of years apart from each other.
Yeah.
In which it's actually like kind of they don't explicitly say it, but if you go through the lore, it's like a reincarnation story. Every so many years, these same figures, Link and Ganon and Zelda, become reborn in new bodies, and that's why all the Zeldas are so different. They're like different tellings, and I think, what was it, Skyward Sword, which was just a few years ago,
the oldest one,
is the oldest, like taking thousands of years before the rest of the Legend of Zelda games.
Like the canon, it's like it doesn't even happen in the sequence of the games that came out at all. Like they are jump all over the place.
I think
very interesting.
I think the original Zelda is actually one of the last ones in the timeline.
Yeah,
that's
the
crazy.
most
I know
future.
nothing about the canon of Zelda.
Yeah, it's cool. That stuff's not like explicitly said in the games, but when you start digging, and they put out an official
Breath of the Wild,
which is nuts.
Isn't Breath of the Wild pretty far in the future?
Yeah, because it's post Ocarina of Time, and I think post Wind Waker. Yeah, it's post Wind Waker, and Wind Waker was already hundreds of years after Ocarina of Time. So who knows, man? It's crazy stuff.
Crazy Sorry, I love Zelda.
Anyway, yeah, Zelda tangent. But anyway, Mario Bros. Last thing I have to say, and then I'll pass the buck here. But I just want everyone to remember that they got this directing pair, Rocky Morton and Annabelle Jankel. They got them off a Coca-Cola commercial. The Nintendo was like, let's put them in charge of our most precious franchise that we have. So, wow, what a decision. What a decision. And with that, I don't know. Frank, who are we doing next?
Danny, wow, what a time saver that was. Danny, you want to hit us with your number 2, your bottom 2?
This podcast just became 20 minutes less.
I know, right?
I know. It's a really rare instance that we all come out of the gate on the same one.
We're trying to save time from the extra time of Wes Anderson last time.
That was a lot.
Yeah. My next one is kind of conflicting because I put it at the second bottom because I do enjoy this film, but it is a bad film, just like Mario Bros. And that would have to be 2002's Resident Evil by Paul W.S. Anderson. Here he is, everyone.
I have the same number 2.
Dang, no! It's my number 1. It's my number 1. We were so close.
Oh man,
that almost washes away the good feeling of the first one.
That's so funny.
That's awesome. I mean, it's so conflicting, and I'm sure you guys are kind of in the same boat as this. It's just like it was at the start of like remakes. I'm sorry, of like adaptations becoming cool from video games, and it was like the beginning of something that could have been great. But at the same time, I have a problem with it because I had played Resident Evil so much, and because they screwed with the source material when there was already so much great stuff they could have done, and they just jumbled so many things together to make a decent 2000s movie. But everything after that is just milking from the udder, you know?
Which, like, let's be real, 2000s movie, not a super high bar there.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, it's true. I mean, looking back, most like horror and action movies from the early 2000s are painful to watch.
Oh,
like
yeah.
cringy.
And this one's got action, and it's fun. You know what I mean? It's arguably the best of that entire crap series.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any other full one. I think I've seen most of 2. And one's not terrible, but it's still not good. That's really where because like when I was younger, I remember thinking, oh, this movie's cool. There's a bit of a forbidden fruit element to it. Like I probably wasn't supposed to be watching it yet.
Oh, I thought you meant like, ooh, Mila Jovovich is so hot.
Yeah, that too. But even then, just watch Dazed and Confused. But the point I'm getting at here is that it's still not great. You know, like if Land of the Dead is better, that's rough. And there's the second Land of the Dead reference for you, everyone.
Yeah, Frank, what you got on this?
I got a 6.7 out of 10 on IMDb and a 35% on Rotten Tomatoes. I think you guys are
generous
nailing...
on IMDb.
Yeah, that was pretty nice of them. They must like be related to Paul W.S. Anderson somehow. Somebody over there in the office was like, well,
Probably Paul something Anderson.
Paul T.W. Anderson.
Yeah.
Paul V.W. Anderson.
PTSW Anderson.
So we got a budget of $33 million on this one. Opening weekend of $17 million, a little bit more than half back on the opening weekend. Not too bad. And they're going to turn a pretty decent profit on this one. Worldwide gross of $102 million, just under $103 million.
Oof.
More money than they should have made.
became the
And
cash cow.
I mean, I think even later in the series, they were still like, that's why there's like 7 of these movies. Mm-hmm. Well, there's not 7. I think there's like 5 or something.
Well, and then part
it
of
probably
it too
feels
is
like
there
7.
is. It's weird how this movie is kind of so polarizing among its own fan base and this whole series in general, because I would say we're pretty diehard Resident Evil fans, you know, and
well,
I love it.
Yeah, I'm not so diehard, but I have I played less and I watched more my cousins playing through like the games. It's just how it worked out for some reason.
Well, I know David and I for sure, like even before we met each other, we're extreme Resident Evil fans, and I love Resident Evil to the point where I will pre-order and like buy any Resident Evil that comes out. But
yeah, I've beaten all of them except for a few spin-offs. Like I've gone through the entire series.
And there's such a division in terms of like those who are fans of the game lore and those who watch this stuff. And like this stuff has its own cult following for sure. There's people who love the trash movies that come from Paul W.S. Anderson and specifically this saga. So it's really strange.
The people who have seen all the entries of this film franchise have also seen all the Fast and Furious movies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, definitely.
There's a crossover there.
Yeah.
And it's a different kind of like bad. It's the kind of person who says like, I just like to turn my brain off and eat some popcorn. You know what I mean? That kind of comment. That's those type of people. It's weird. Whereas
they definitely drink like Code Red.
And I just want to make a distinction. Like Mario Bros is terrible, but it's not in the same way. It's like I'm laughing at it. Mm-hmm. I'm not enjoying it. I don't know. I'm being too pretentious.
There's some Schadenfreude involved.
Yeah. Yes. It's
too
exactly
pretentious.
What it is.
This is UMR. Right?
This is UMR. This is what we're all about. That's all we have.
We're giving our opinions on movies with no basis professionally.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'll take that. I do want to just point something out that I think is kind of interesting about these. And maybe Frank's going to get a lot of video game lore today. So, like, Resident Evil, I've played through all of them. I love them. The storylines are terrible. And for the most part, most of the voice acting is atrocious. Like, up to a certain point,
save Resident Evil 4. I mean, yes, the voice acting's terrible in 4. The lore is awesome in 4.
4 is cool, but 4 takes on this really, like, intentionally cheesy B-action movie where Leon's, like, shouting out one-liners and, like, doing spin kicks, and that's a whole other energy. Whereas the first 3, it's like, man, who recorded this and who like decided these were good ideas? And then there's some that, I mean, as it goes on, it changes so much in every game. Like 7 is very serious and very dark and very well performed.
So good.
7 is the one that I got strapped into, right?
Yeah, 7's the one you played a little bit of in VR.
7's like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's like inspired by the Texas Chainsaw Massacre for sure.
Not a bad place to jump in if you've never played Resident Evil, just to start on something totally new. I mean, it won't be that confusing. But anyway, there's this weird relationship with these movies. So in Resident Evil 1, and I think a lot of people were upset, like diehard game fans like Danny are saying, because in the first Resident Evil, there are no video game characters. There are characters who, you know, seem like they're inspired by one of the people from the game, but none of them are strictly game characters.
No Leon Kennedy, no Chris Redfield.
And then you get Alice, who's like this super powered. And that's another weird thing too, that the main character in the movies is like essentially like Wesker, like the bad guy.
Yeah.
They have all these special abilities, and that's never something that's in the games, at least in most of them.
Also, like, makes them hard. The thing that I've always noticed about Resident Evil games is like, you're constantly like, oh man, I don't want to die.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah, you're like a person amongst all these crazy like mutated creatures, and that's what gives it the horror.
And you have 4 bullets for the entire game. You know
I was going to say, yeah, that's another great thing too. Unless you're, you know, really playing with an avoiding play style, you're going to have just enough ammo to get to the next encounter, and then it's like, ugh, and then you find just enough to hold you over. It's really well balanced.
It's one of those games you need multiple saves on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just in case.
Say it's not as hard as, like, I think Silent Hill is a harder game franchise because there's no action in it. Essentially, they just give you like a pipe. And they're like, all right, go up against these hell demons.
Yeah, no, you're right.
A little bit different.
And there's always a point in a Resident Evil game too where you're just like, man, I'm stacked right now. It's always a great feeling. It's like, I have every weapon I could need. Let's like murder people.
Until Mr. X shows up.
Yeah, and then you're just running scared. Man, what a great game. That Resident Evil 2 remake is just, it's so good. But
it's great.
There's this weird relationship where they go back and forth influencing each other. So in the original Resident Evil that we're talking about, the movie, there's this, and this is like one of the coolest scenes of the movie that I love, when they're walking through that corridor and the lasers come in. It's like that trap.
Yeah, that's my scene. Yeah.
Yeah, that scene's great, man. And then you see that you have that one guy who's like avoiding all of them. You're like, yes, yes, yes. And then at the end, it's like impossible for him to escape and he dies.
She's great. I love it because it comes out at one line and then it's just it comes into this like grid.
It's like, oh no, I'm done. Yeah, that's a great scene. And people enjoyed that scene so much that they wrote it into Resident Evil 4.
Huh.
So when you're playing Resident Evil 4, that shows up as you're Leon. You're like walking through the thing, and these lasers come at you.
That's pretty cool.
So then that happens, and then when they come out with the second Resident Evil movie, they decide, oh, let's get more of the game stuff. So then they bring in like Nemesis, and they bring in a bunch of characters from the game, but then it just starts getting jumbled. It's like Resident Evil 5 is more action packed because the movies are more action packed, but then Resident Evil 5 is so over the top and silly that they literally like, take scenes from it and put it in the movie. It's like, it's so weird. It's eating itself, which is pretty apt.
If you're listening to this and you want to jump in on a Resident Evil game, just don't jump in on Resident Evil 5. Don't jump in on Resident Evil 6. Especially don't jump in on Resident Evil 5 because it's very problematic.
Well, you know, 5. That's funny. I just replayed 5, and there is some like white saviorism for sure. That is. Oh yeah.
Well, also everyone you're shooting is black.
But I think it's interesting that no one ever brings up how problematic 4 is when you're a white guy killing a bunch of Spaniards. You know what I mean? It's like
for some reason people don't react as harshly. They're getting there, but
and progress. We'll get there.
Yeah.
I just gotta say, if you do want to check out Resident Evil, which I would say play the games or the movies. I think great entry points are 7, 4,
definitely
the 2 remake, and if you're willing and if you're brave, just start at 1. Just start at OG 1. It's gonna be a little rough, but it's gonna be scary. You're gonna be real scared.
I feel like 7 is unlike the rest of the franchise, and only like Resident Evil 1 at most. You know what I mean? In that it's not weird. Very actiony.
It's not. It's different from everything in the franchise, but at the same time, the most like the original core.
Well, maybe it's like Gibson realizing like, all right, people didn't want us doing all these crazy things, automatic tuners. Like they want what we used to do. Let's put out a bunch of historic spec guitars. Like, duh.
Oh, you mean people didn't? You mean people didn't want a $750 Chinese-made Gibson with Gibson on the headstock? Oh,
you would think, but I guess not.
That being said, I feel like I should just mention that if you're also into Resident Evil, you should play The Evil Within. I'm just saying.
You know what, dude? I've been sleeping on this for so long, and I'm gonna get around to it this year.
Ooh,
I need to play
so
it.
good.
I just never played them. Can we do something for Halloween this year? I'm proposing an idea.
Well, I hope we do something for Halloween.
Oh, sorry. I'm cracking my fingers over here. I'm being very inconsiderate of the listener.
That's cool. I'll probably grab those out and sample them for something later.
The original George Romero Resident Evil script is online. We should do a script read for a podcast come spooky season.
I'm so down. So down.
Let's do it. We'll bring Tony and Eric and Randy.
We'll get a couple
bring
people.
So many people.
Dibs on Jill Valentine. Okay.
I call the
master of
liquors
lock picking.
dialogue.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
All right. Well, this is weird. This is now.
Yeah, I was going to say our order is crazy shot. So
Yeah.
I haven't gone yet, but I'm also already at my number one. David, we stole your number
Yeah.
one. Do you want to give us your number two?
I think this makes the most sense.
Because we're technically
Give me that
in the
number
round
2.
of
Give me that
twos.
number 2, David.
And you know what?
Take us steaming hot number 2 right in the middle of this podcast.
As I transition, I do just want to quickly bring up, it made me realize that if we're going to talk trash about the Resident Evil movies, we should also just point out the Resident Evil animated movies, which are actually pretty good. Like, if you like the cheese of the video game, it's the exact same cheese.
Nice.
And there's a trilogy of them, and they explore all the characters from the video game. So worth checking out. I think they're on Netflix, but take that as what you will. Anyway,
Interesting.
my number 2 was actually a movie because I felt like I was doing a lot of retreading because we just did directors we're thankful and not thankful for. So I just trashed all these guys like Huey Ball and Paul W.S. Anderson. So I picked 2005's by Andrzej Bartkowiak. Doom.
dude. Yes.
That
This
is a
is
good
my
bad one, David.
dishonorable mention.
No. So the Doom movie, I'm going to be honest, I didn't rewatch it up for this podcast because ain't nobody got time for that. We're doing Tremors soon. I need to brace myself for that.
I have a lot of worm
Yes.
movies to watch,
Yeah.
I gotta get wormy.
This stars Carl Urban, who back then was almost nobody, but now is
Carl Urban.
Disclaimer, not Keith Urban.
No.
Different person, no relation. Well, I don't know.
We're talking about The Boys. We're talking about Billy Butcher. Also of Lord of the Rings fame as well. But we have Carl Urban leading here. I mean, I think as far as going for adapting the source material, not too bad. Like not a
too
bad
far off.
attempt. And I think some people really enjoy this movie too. I just think it suffers from that same like early 2000s. It's just part of it's just unwatchable now. I don't know what it is.
It almost feels like in the early 2000s. I mean, like this could be said for like any moment in time, but a lot of the movies feel like just bang out the script. Let's shoot this thing. Let's edit this thing, and let's make some money off of this like IP that we're adapting right now.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of cash grabbing.
Wait, is it the early 2000s right now?
Well, another thing too
Just
is
to clarify, there's a second one, isn't there?
I think there is maybe a straight
Doom
to DVD one?
Annihilation 2019.
Isn't that a game?
This looks like it's like a half CG thing. Looks awful.
It probably is. Well, another thing too that doesn't help, and I think part of what makes early 2000s really hard to watch, is this is when they really started relying on CGI, but it didn't look good enough to pull it off all the way. You know what I mean? Like in the 90s, they were still kind of cautious with it. They weren't going all the way.
They hadn't gone full Blade Trinity yet.
Yeah, but then Phantom Menace comes out in 99, and then people are like, let's do it up. And then the 2000s is a bunch of really poorly aged CGI. But anyway, there's really one scene I want to talk about in this movie, and it's the final scene, which I think some people are big fans of. I've seen a lot of people, especially like on video game forums, talking about the first person shooter scene at the end.
I mean, that's a lot of fun.
It is fun, but at the same time, it just feels like, to me, I'm just like, well,
Is it pandering?
That's kind of how it comes across to me. And also just, it just doesn't look great. You know what I mean?
Better and more first person, better and more entertaining first person list real quick.
I'm wondering if this is the movie I'm
sorry.
thinking about.
Rona.
Is it
No, I
Hardcore
just want to
Henry?
mention
Oh, I haven't seen that.
I was thinking of the episode of It's Always Sunny where you are seeing everything from Frank Reynolds' perspective.
Oh, that is a good one.
That is fantastic.
But I was thinking about Hardcore Henry, which does the entire movie in first person, right?
You know what? I still haven't seen that one.
I didn't watch it. Was it any good?
I didn't see it either. It looked real dumb when I saw it.
Yeah, that's why I didn't see it.
The Doom movie left a poor taste in my mouth. I didn't want to take a chance. But yeah, it feels like kind of shoehorned in. It feels like obligatory, and if anything, a bit uncreative. And just, I wish they had, what they needed to do to make Doom is it needed to be more hopeless, more satanic, and just all around brutal. You
Just
know
gone
what I mean?
full on Doom.
You have to go full Doom if you're going to try and make a movie. But that's it. So now...
And you know what movie I've always felt like has a similar vibe, but it's a totally different movie? Overlord.
Overlord. You know what? Overlord is like a Doom movie.
Yeah.
And I'm down for that movie.
And it's like a spiritual, it's like a spiritual adaptation for sure. But it's so good. We went to go see it and I was just like, this is surprisingly awesome. Is this Doom?
Yeah. I think that would describe how I felt perfectly, just like surprised at how much I enjoyed it.
Although to be honest, and I'm not going to say I don't like calling you guys out because I love it. Both of you weren't crazy about that movie when we reviewed it. And go check out our video if you guys don't believe
There is evidence.
I totally believe that.
I really enjoyed this movie, and you guys were like, man, it was kind of
At the same time, it was kind of like Wolfenstein, though, wasn't it?
Well, you know what's funny?
And you know what? I have had a rewatch since our original watch, yeah.
Yeah, something about it really. It's not pushing any boundaries, but the characters are good. You care about them. The plot's real tight.
It's got the best bad guys you could have.
The scares are nice. Yeah, it's got Nazi zombies.
How can you go wrong?
That CGI at the end, though, that's where I'm shaking a little bit. Same thing with Doom. But Danny's talking about Wolfenstein. So again, with some video game lore, Wolfenstein came before Doom, and you were killing Nazis. But there is a level where you fight Nazi zombies. So yeah, that is Overlord. And if anything, get out of here, Call of Duty. It was Wolfenstein's first. But
name me a better thing to shoot than a Nazi zombie.
Can't think of one.
Dang.
Some Tannerite, maybe.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that kick it on over to me?
Yeah, for your number one, which I'm going to guess is the same as Frank's.
Oh, I don't think
It'd be
is.
really interesting if it is.
Oh, okay.
I would be surprised. I would honestly imagine that this is the same for us, David. I'm surprised it's not on your list,
really?
though.
Okay.
So, all right, I'm going to kick it on over. All right, for me, my worst of the bottoms is 2001's Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within.
This is a first, everybody. This is number 2 on my top list.
Oh my goodness.
This is a first.
How controversial.
I know, right?
I'm sorry, David. I hate this movie.
The chaos.
Discord is happening.
Let me explain myself, if I may.
You go con, I'll go pro.
Yeah, explain yourselves. I've never seen this movie, so I will observe.
CLE coming soon.
If you're not a fan of Final Fantasy and you've never had any predisposition to it, I should say, going into it, you might be like, okay, that was a good movie. You know what I mean? It's really cool. I'll say, like, even rewatching it, which I watched a little bit of before this podcast because I'm not going to sit through the whole thing again.
CLE coming soon.
It's solid animation and it holds up really well. And even at the time when I saw this movie, I was like, the animation is incredible. It was years beyond its time. Like, I never even thought it looked better than the short sequences in Final Fantasy games, which were usually like top-notch CGI.
Yeah, at that time, no one did cutscenes better than Final Fantasy.
No, like they were the best.
Yeah.
And at this time, I mean, 2001, it's like peak Final Fantasy time. You know what I mean? Arguably, it's getting even better. Like my favorite era is right around 8, 9, 10, 7 to 10, and there on. But like, what I'm going to say is this is kind of the classic problem that Resident Evil had, in which I went to go see this movie with expectations. I thought it would tie into the lore. It does. It's a completely different lore. Final Fantasy is not a contained story. Some of the things coincide with worlds in the different sequels to Final Fantasy, but they're all contain stories more or less, and they all share characteristics of each other, like the creatures in it and the magic in it and stuff like that. That being said, I mean, it's a solid Hollywood movie. I think this is more a spite rank because I felt bamboozled.
Spite rank. I've never had more spots on a top list or on a ranked episode being stolen from me from out from underneath. That's okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
this order is all over the place. It's a beautiful thing.
This is messed up. Okay, so not to get super confusing, okay, here it is. This is my number 2 in my pro defense.
Yeah, give us the flip side.
And not that I am a professional, but that I am an affirmation of Final Fantasy and the spirits within. Here's what's going on. Okay, backstory. Danny is a Final Fantasy fan. I enjoy Final Fantasy. Like in 2001, I had only played 4 Final Fantasy games. That's the original 3, 1, 2, 3. And I'm talking Japanese 1, 2, 3, not this American nonsense. I had played the 3 on an NES emulator when I was a kid. And I had played a demo of Final Fantasy 8 for PC. I had a demo on a PC magazine, and I played the demo like 30 times. I never played the game all the way through.
Final Fantasy 8 is amazing.
Yeah, very cool stuff. So the movie, yes, is completely different. And if you're unfamiliar with the Final Fantasy Spirits Within movie, it's basically a sci-fi story where there are these entities that float around the planet and you can't see them. But when they touch you, they suck the soul out of your body and you're dead.
How rude.
So then they just show up one day. And as you can imagine, humanity is devastated. Like people are just dropping dead. You can't see anything. So they end up making these protective shields that keep your community in this bubble that the things can't get in. But then there's this one outsider who has to go outside for a reason and adventure. Sounds like a Final Fantasy plot point. I'm just saying.
Sure does.
And then like another thing about Final Fantasy, and Danny's right, like most of them don't really connect. Like for instance, fire is always called Fyra. And like they have the same names for that.
And all that. Yeah.
And there's like Chocobo and the one guy who always shows up is Sid, the airship captain. He's in all of them. And who's in this movie, everybody? Dr. Sid. What? Anyway, in all seriousness, I think it's a really interesting science fiction movie. It is beautiful and almost mind-blowing how good this movie looks.
It looks amazing. It still looks great.
You get Steve Buscemi voicing the cocky, hot-headed character. It's kind of cool because you never see Steve Buscemi cast in that type of role. But he's animated, so he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
And I believe, is it Ving Rhames? It might
Alec
not
Baldwin's
be.
in here and Ving Rhames.
Yeah, Alec Baldwin, Ving Rhames. Great voice cast. I think it's really good for sci-fi fans. And I think even if you are a Final Fantasy fan, I think the thing that especially might throw people off is Final Fantasy leans more fantasy, given the title and everything. There is some sci-fi elements, but this movie is sci-fi first.
This is hard sci-fi, with a tinge of fantasy.
A tinge of fantasy. But anyways, we'll have more to discuss. We'll CLE this thing next week. Make sure we all get our viewings in and get that review out to you.
I will say some quick cool points. I mean, this is a good standalone movie. And it was made by Sakaguchi, who is the creator of Final Fantasy, which is another creating point. That's another good thing. It is the first photorealistic computer animated feature film.
There we go. It's also the first time. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say it is the most expensive game-inspired film, and it retained that title for 9 years until that Prince of Persia movie came out. I'll let Frank give the numbers, but I just had to give those fun facts.
Well, I don't think Frank has.
I don't have the numbers for this movie. I didn't know you guys were going to talk about this movie.
Do you relinquish that, Daddy? For this,
I am still Stat Daddy. I am not a mind reader.
I'll make you.
But yeah, give us those stats.
You can be the deputy. Well, before you get into the stats, just a fun fact on top of your fun fact, and a weird one too. The main character of this movie, whose name is Aki, is the first fictional character to be in a Maxim spread. She was featured in an issue of Maxim when
Horny
this movie
nerds,
was
man.
coming out. Right?
Everyone's got to go to horny jail.
The first time ever. Not in Japan, of course, but in the United States. Okay, what were you saying, Danny?
Another disappointing part of this this movie is that the music was not made by Uematsu, which is kind of sad. You know what I mean? It is the first movie from Square Pictures when Squaresoft made their own cinema. And then, yeah,
no, I'm just joking.
And I remember part of my ire for this movie is because I was so stoked in 2001 to see it. It was a release on my birthday. It came out on July 11th, but I'm a July 15th guy. So I remember like going to see this for my birthday, being like, "Oh my God, there's a Final Fantasy movie coming out for my birthday."
That's 4 days, Danny. That doesn't
Let's
really count.
be honest. He celebrates it the entire month.
That is true.
It had a budget, everyone, of $137 million
Hot damn.
for a video game movie.
It's a lot of wings.
That's so expensive, even by today's standards. That's pretty expensive. Guess what the box office
They should have just
gross
invested
was?
that money into Bitcoin, idiots.
Box office gross was, I don't know what, how much did you say it was? 100 and what?
137.
I'm gonna guess 19 million.
I'm going to go
Yeah,
with
that's
6 million.
It's a little harsh. It's 85, but still did not make near that nut.
Well, they lost money on this thing, and this is why they took a break from it. They were like, no, this was too expensive. And it was crazy
Classic.
because it took so long. They worked on this so long in the animation that by the time they got to the end of the film, they had to redo parts of the start of the film because technology had advanced that much.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. This is like a weird cinema story. CLE coming soon.
That's so strange.
I'm done
But yeah,
with
I had to put that on there. It's again, I would not be Danny if I didn't do a salty spite rank on a T3B3. So
You know what? I respect your opinion, although I disagree with it.
How nice. How lovely. Well, that's going to bring us to my bottom one, which is going to be... Sorry, I just wanted to... I don't know why it's important to me to hit the year first, but it is. 2015's Pixel. And I've griped about this one before on the channel.
Pixels, I think, isn't it?
Pixels, yeah. But... who cares? No respect on the name. Starting off, we got a 5.5 out of 10 on IMDb and a righteous 17% on Rotten Tomatoes. That makes me feel warm in my gut a little bit. At least
nice.
there's justice out there in the
That's
world
nice.
sometimes. Budget of $88 million estimated, of course. Opening weekend of $24 million with a worldwide gross of $244 million. Of course, this movie made a bunch of money because that's what Adam Sandler do these days, you know? He just busts them out really quick. Just bust out that blockbuster.
When the people who watch all the Resident Evil and Fast and Furious movies want something a little bit lighter, they go watch an Adam Sandler movie.
So my main complaint of this has always been like, it's a ripoff of that episode of Futurama, and not even a whole episode, but it's like like 6 minutes or something of an episode of Futurama.
What is it?
Anthology of Interest 2.
Yeah.
From season 4, episode 3.
My what if machine.
Yeah.
And we'll
the
test it with my newest invention, the long finger.
Yeah. So I'm thinking like, all right, like I hate the fact that this movie exists. Is that enough to put it in my bottom one? Does that seem fair?
Yeah.
So I did the science for the channel.
Wow.
I watched this damn movie.
You watched
I watched the whole
Pixels?
thing.
When?
I paid $4.32
What?
to watch this thing.
You had
You
to
gave Adam
rent it?
Sandler movie?
I did.
Or movie money? You gave Adam Sandler movie?
Yeah, I gave him money. I did. I gave him $4.32. Well, I gave him $3.99, and the rest went to the government.
So Kevin James got at least 20 cents of that. I hope you're happy with yourself.
I'm not happy about it at all. But at least I can confirm. Yeah, that movie sucks. Yeah, I don't like that movie. It was not a fun watch. It was not a $4.32 well spent. Should have bought Bitcoin.
Dang, right? It would have turned into something at least.
Yeah, it's just it's everything I expected it to be. You know what I mean? Like unoriginality, no explanation of the plot. The plot makes zero sense, like as a whole. And there's nothing really exciting about it. You got bloated face Nick Swartzen.
It's
all
also
about
like
Adam Sandler's friends.
This goes into another dishonorable mention, but this is like Ready Player One done completely worse. This is like a schlockier version of Ready Player One is this entire movie.
At least, I mean, and I haven't seen the movie, but I would think at least Pixels is a little bit better with the references. Is it just like reference after reference, or is it?
It's not even like. I feel like to qualify something as a reference, there has to be like some wit and some cleverness put into it. But it's just like, here's this character, and here is this character that you would also recognize, and oh, here comes this character.
Does Pac-Man at least look cool? Because he always looked kind of cool in the trailer.
You know, if we're gonna talk about honorable mention scenes, there is a beautiful scene between like Pac-Man as a bad guy and his creator, and him trying to convince Pac-Man that he's like, no, this is my son. Like, let me talk to him. I know Pac-Man is a good boy. And he tries to like convince him to like stop this violence, and he bites his hand off. And that's kind of funny. That's kind of cute.
That's pretty cool.
Besides that, not much else to show up for. But the worst part maybe is Adam Sandler, specifically his performance, because the whole time he's just kind of there. He's just kind of there the whole time.
Well,
just like,
he's just there for the paycheck.
Yeah, you know?
It's so clear.
Like, if you want to just collect I guess it would be another paycheck. So say just like write and direct everything, and you don't even have to show up behind the camera. You can just like take a seat the whole time.
No, he wants the 3. You know what I mean?
Gotta get the 3.
4. I'm sure he produces it too.
I'm sure he does.
Oh my God.
It was a Happy Madison production.
I mean, he'd shoot the thing if it was physically possible.
Yeah. So unfortunately,
Yikes.
we'll just keep getting terrible Happy Madison productions, and this is one of them, and it'll reign supreme as the video game-based movie that I
What
hate
a
the
bummer.
most.
It was directed by Chris Columbus, and I love Chris Columbus.
This isn't even the first time we've talked about Chris Columbus on the channel. He's gotten
He
a ton
did
of
Home
praise on
Alone.
the channel.
Yeah. He did Harry Potter
But
and the Sorcerer's Stone.
these days, if you pick up your phone, Adam Sandler's on the other line, you know you're just showing up for a paycheck that day. Like, oh, cool. Where are we taking this vacation to, and how much money am I getting?
Look, the next time that you feel like you need to pay to see an Adam Sandler movie, just go to Amazon and rent any Wes Anderson movie. Just please. The man,
Learn from me.
he needs more recognition.
Or
It's so
just-
heartbreaking.
Think
Think
to
about
yourself, and then invest in some Dogecoin.
Yeah.
Dogecoin.
That's what I should have done. I should have just bought more Doge.
Yeah, I put 10,000 in Dogecoin. I hope it pays off, guys. So is that the bottom of our bottoms, everybody?
That takes us to the bottom of our bottoms.
Are we bottoms up, everyone? Is it time?
It's time to get to the bottom of our tops.
And I guess it goes back to me, right?
Yeah.
Well, this is interesting because wait, no, I have my number 3.
Yeah, your number 3 still a secret.
This is so confusing. Okay, number 3. I have a movie adaptation. This is a bit cheating, to be honest.
Uh-oh.
No, it's based on a movie. No, it's based on a video game. It's not cheating. It's because it's not an adaptation of the game. It's a continuation of the story of the video game. But anyway, I'm talking about 2009's the movie that no one saw, Tales of Vesperia: The First Strike.
Never heard of it.
No one's heard of this.
Never heard of it. No.
I would argue you guys probably haven't even heard of Tales of Vesperia. It's like, what is this?
Never heard of it.
Let me see. There we go. Yeah, there it is. There's Tales of Vesperia. It's on PS4 now. Okay, so
That looks like something you'd be into.
right. Obviously, it's, you know, if anything, I honestly think Danny would really enjoy these games.
Oh, do
He's such
tell.
a Final
Do tell.
Fantasy nerd. Okay, so let me get into it. So, Tales of Vesperia. First off, the Tales series dates back to the Super Nintendo. It's been around forever. Just no
But I
one's
thought
no
Tails
one's played
was
it.
Sega because of Sonic.
No,
There it is.
that's just a pun for Sega. That's all. Just because he's a little fox. But Tales of Vesperia originally came out on the 360. I played through the whole thing with a buddy. It is co-op, which is pretty crazy for an RPG. It is pretty much a standard Japanese RPG. It's like Final Fantasy. The only difference is when you run into the enemy, you know, and you go into the battle mode. Instead of it like being clicking through menus and choosing your attacks and choosing your enemy, it's a real-time battle
Oh, okay.
just in a little 3D environment. So you cast
So it's
spells
like how
and you attack
Final Fantasy
real time.
is now.
Yeah,
Final
ironically.
Fantasy from like 14 and up, I think or 13 and up has been real time.
Yeah. Ever since they went full Kingdom Hearts in Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tails was doing it first. So it is kind of weird how that works out. So if you're into that kind of thing, you might enjoy the Tales series, except it's got more of it feels more like a classic RPG. It's got all the story tropes. You know, you go through your quest, you meet your party, one of your party betrays you, but later ends up helping you out again anyway. And the story's pretty cool. It's about these two soldiers, like brothers in arms kind of thing, where one of them decides, you know what? I'm not working for the proletariat any longer, comrade. I'm leaving. And the other one says, but we must be here for the glory of the country. We have duty as soldiers. But the game starts you off where your main character he's already chosen to leave, you know, the knight's order or whatever. He's like, my watch is ended. But in this movie, it's the story that leads up to that. So it's really interesting. I didn't see this until after I finished the game. And I actually just bought this PS4 copy to play through it again because there's an extra character in it. So right on,
Nice.
Let's do it. But
I think I should go on record now and just say for everyone wondering, because I know there's tons of people wondering, I am a turn-based RPG fan. I do not enjoy real time.
what a nerd.
I do like the turn-based too. My favorite Final Fantasy is Final Fantasy Tactics.
Yeah, but you know what? That's
Yeah.
not turn-based. That's like strategy RPG. I think that's a slightly different subgenre.
I'm talking battle turn-based.
that
Like
one.
I used to love contemplating how I'm going into a battle, going real hard in that battle, getting a little frustrated, and then just leaving it on my turn. Probably leaving the PS on for a couple hours, coming back to it, get something to eat, and then come back with a fresh mind and then make my next move.
Or the Pokemans. All of us have played Pokemon. Everyone our age has anyway.
Oh yeah.
But I actually, you know what? I'm with Frank. Those are my favorite. Like Final Fantasy Tactics, Fire Emblem, Advance Wars. Although Advance Wars isn't really an RPG. But man, that is good. Okay.
That's the good stuff.
So this is Danny's 3.
It's my bottom. You guys want to see my bottom?
Oh, I'm sorry. There's one I wrote in my notes. I just have to throw this out before we move on. Tales of Vesperia First Strike, you know, just something to, because it is an anime style and it looks really, really good. The guy who directed Tales of Vesperia worked on 2 projects that we're big fans of here at the channel. Kill Bill, working on I'm assuming the animated section of Kill Bill, and the end of Evangelion.
Ooh.
So this guy has he's worked on some heavy hitting projects, and it's a really solid movie. Anyway,
You should write him an email, see if he can help us out with our copyright ban.
no, I don't think so. No one can help us with that. All right, Dan, what you got?
So chickening it on to me, this is the bottom of my tops, and it's going to be one. I know we have some younger listeners, so just kids, take note. This is 1995's Mortal Kombat.
You know what? This was almost my number 3, and I switched it out last minute.
This is arguably the
one?
best
No.
Paul W.S. Anderson movie ever made.
It's his best one, yeah. It is his
Fight
best
me.
one for sure, I think. I won't find.
And is it a great film? No. Is it a ton of fun?
Yeah, I don't like this movie. I mean, there's a little bit of nostalgia for me, but anyway, this is Danny's.
Oh, no, you're right. This is vastly nostalgia driven, and particularly because I watched it so many times as a kid, because it was on like TNT all the time. And also I remember distinctly like going to Hollywood Video and going to like Blockbuster, and like before I'd seen this movie and before I even played a Mortal Kombat game, like seeing the video cover of it and just being like, I need to watch that.
Yeah, that dragon is so cool.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Dragon's so
that
cool.
cover with the dragon on it, I'm going to need to rent that.
That theme song slaps. That theme song is something else.
And yeah, I mean, even past just watching this movie, it's got the song is the reason why the movie's good first. And then it's so good that even when I stopped watching the movie and over again when I was young, like I'd say this is probably like around the year 2000, 2001. It was one of the first songs I learned to download with LimeWire or with like Kazaa. or something was the Mortal Kombat.
Your poor
theme song.
parents' computer.
It's what gave my computer syphilis.
This movie's great. It's stupid, but the casting is on point. They're all really no one. There's Robin Shou is probably the biggest actor in that entire movie, and there's two of these movies. I think both are W.S. Anderson, but I mean it's decent. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it's just nostalgia driven. It's great. I had to put it on here. I had to.
There's the bottom of the list was much easier to fill out than the top
Yeah.
part of the list.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got many
it's funny.
honorable mentions. Is this
Ooh,
on
nice.
anyone's
I have
list?
a couple.
No,
No.
it was almost third, and it got replaced like
Yeah.
maybe within an hour of starting this recording.
I will say so much more enjoyable than the Street Fighter movie, which is just bad.
Oh.
I mean, you
But
get
it's like the
some
last
redeeming
Michael Clark
qualities in it, but
Duncan
it's
movie
bad.
too, which is so sad.
Oh, not that Street Fighter. The one with Jean-Claude Van Damme. There's a 90s Street Fighter too.
I forgot.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. All right, so Frank, I guess this is your 3, right?
Yeah, my number 3, the movie that last minute replaced Mortal Kombat.
Ooh.
And this is going to be another not great movie, nostalgia driven, all right, you know what I mean? Lara Croft Tomb Raider, everybody. Yeah. Is it a fantastic piece of art? Hell no. Is Angelina Jolie in super tight clothes doing flips and shooting guns throughout most of the movie? I mean, yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's actually what it says on the back of the box. When you read the movie.
And it's an apt tagline, you know what I mean? And this came out 2001, so I was 10, 11 years old. Eyes glued to the TV, obviously. There's too many points.
It's favorite movie.
I haven't seen this movie since, before high school.
Whoa.
It's been forever since I've seen this movie. So that's probably one of the reasons I still remember it so fondly. Haven't made the grind mistake of going back to revisit something that you shouldn't. And I'm saying that because it's got a 5.8 out of 10 on IMDb and a stinking 20% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yikes.
Yeah. The difference between my worst film and my least, my third best film is a 3% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow.
Close spread there. Real close spread.
I've never seen this movie.
Really?
Yeah. And you know what? I wasn't ever really crazy about the Tomb Raider video games either. I mean, I played a lot of video games, but I never played those for some reason.
Fun adventure game.
I didn't have a PlayStation.
Very
That's
polygonal.
the reason. I didn't have a PlayStation.
Man.
That's really the reason.
Missed out those PS days. Let me tell you.
Well, you know what I was playing? I was playing Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine for the 64, which was just Tomb Raider.
All those parts make sense to me.
Which
the
is-
Indiana Jones
Yeah,
and
the
Nintendo.
N64 it's all coming together.
I remember seeing this movie in theaters, Frank.
Yeah, I
This
for
is
sure
a-
saw this one in theaters.
Wow.
This is a really bad movie. But I agree with you. Angelina Jolie is in super tight tights for the entire movie.
I agree with something that is
Undeniable
Yeah,
fact.
I was gonna say I agree with something that is an objective fact. Wow.
Isn't John Voight also in this movie?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. It's tied
Nice.
into Anaconda. You know, it's easy to miss, but he plays the same character in both movies.
We got a $115 million budget for this Angelina Jolie vehicle. Opening weekend of $47 million with a worldwide gross of $274 million. So they did pretty all right.
Yeah. And then you get Cradle of Life after that, right? Isn't that what the second one's called?
Yeah, and I know I saw the second one. I don't really remember it. Who knows?
They really missed out by not paying Cradle of Filth to be on that movie soundtrack.
That would have been
gotta say.
interesting.
It just cracks me up that Tomb Raider is pretty much an adaptation of Indiana Jones, but with a British woman. And then they adapted that into a movie. And then the same things are happening with Uncharted again. It's like Uncharted is just Indiana Jones with a younger, cockier guy. And now it's going to be a movie with Tom Holland. I'm hoping the Uncharted movie is going to be nice.
We'll see.
I hope so. It's got Tom
Sony's
Holland,
going-
right?
Sony's going all in right now. They're doing Last of Us. They're doing this thing. It's going to be interesting.
I have a lot of faith in The Last of Us. Knowing that it's in the hands of the man that made Chernobyl, I gotta say, if anyone listening to this hasn't seen the HBO limited miniseries Chernobyl, go watch it. It's incredible. Incredible. One of the best things HBO's ever done.
Yeah, that is a truly fantastic series.
I really like the cast that we're getting on this thing. It's going to be exciting. But it's not time for Oh, That's Interesting, which would have been a good choice.
That would have been a good
It actually
choice.
would have really fit in with the, you know, maybe we'll change. I don't know. Let's cut this part out.
Producing on the fly.
Sometimes you don't know till you're there.
Yeah.
So this is
like jazz.
Now
This is now your number
2.
which we already did. Do you have anything else to say?
You know, I don't have anything else to say, but maybe let's just skip for now. I think that makes the most sense to
Just
me.
wait until Danny's already talking and then come in.
But if Danny has my same number, if he has the same number, if his number 2 is my number 1, I'm gonna lose it, guys. I'm gonna walk
I don't
out
think
of
it
the
is.
podcast.
I think
right,
you're
go ahead,
safe.
Danny.
I don't think it's going to be it. I think this is a very subjective Danny movie. It's not Jurassic Park because it can't be. It is actually Silent Hill. This is my number 2.
This almost made my list, man.
This was an honorable
This is
mention
an honorable
for me.
mention for me.
Dudes, this movie is not perfect by any means, no. But
Yeah.
is it a great movie? I think so. And I even like Silent Hill Revelations too. Put me on a stake, you know, it's kind of rough. But it is a good movie. 2006, directed by Christoph Gans. Something I got to say is they don't distinctly do. It's kind of the same treat. They give it the movie treatment where it's not the exact lore. A lot of all the lore is just made in a hodgepodge again. However, it works in this one because Silent Hill is so contained like that.
And the aesthetic is perfect.
The aesthetic is totally nailed,
they
and
get
that's
it.
what makes it fun.
Yeah.
Silent Hill is a video game that was meant to be a movie for sure. And it's aesthetically made like a horror movie. And it's one of my favorite series, although it is a tragic series. And I'm not talking about content. It's just like Konami is just a bad developer. And they have this beautiful, darling franchise, Silent Hill, which like made it so much money. And they just run it through the dirt all the time.
Well, now that they've officially killed Metal Gear, maybe they'll return and kill it some more.
Oh, Silent Hill it's got so many great gems in the series of story-wise. A lot of them are contained stories. Some of them are continuations. The very famous ones do take place in the same Silent Hill, I believe. So like 1 and 2, I believe.
Yeah.
Do. Actually, Silent Hill Revelations is closer akin to Silent Hill 3, I believe. I gotta remember. But I just gotta say, like, it does great. Like, even I've done a rewatch recently of Silent Hill 1 and Silent Hill Revelations, and they both look great. The CGI is great, and I think that takes a lot of, a lot into accounting that it's a very dark atmosphere, and that CGI does really well in dark lighting. And Silent Hill is, particularly gray, black, red, and fire tone, and it looks great in low light. But it holds up really well. The story's pretty good. It's very video gamey when you rewatch it, but it's a good story. It's fun to watch. Silent Hill Revelations has some really cool monsters. It's got some imaginative stuff in it. But I love this movie. It's one of my favorites.
I haven't seen it in years, and that's actually why I didn't put it on the list. I was just a little nervous. I was like, what if this isn't as good as I remembered it being? But you've encouraged me, Danny. I'm going to rewatch it. And I'm going to watch that. I never watched Revelations.
I've never seen it.
I was like, hey.
It's not as good as the first one, I would say, as far as like a movie watching experience goes, but it's got some spooks in it. It's got some scary moments. And it's interesting to see how they still dipped from the ink of the lore, but they did it really well, I think. And it's got Sean Bean.
The good old lore ink. Okay.
So give it a watch. I love it. I think both are streaming on everywhere right now. So,
that's nice.
check it out.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I will watch it then.
Well, that was a delightful number 2, Danny.
It was
a delightful number 2.
Really was.
I only
which
make
is gonna bring
delightful
me
number 2s.
cute little 2s. That's going to bring me to my number 2, which I'm going to go ahead and let you know is my shoehorn portion of the podcast. Here we go. Futurama Season 4, Episode 3, The Anthology of Interest 2.
Wow.
Why just gripe about Pixel?
I will accept it.
Yeah, I mean, here we go. It's happening.
Yeah.
So thank you for your acceptance. It came out in 2002. It's got an 8.3 out of 10 on IMDb, folks. Not too shabby. A total runtime of 6 minutes and 22 seconds. Shortest entry on the list. Record. I win. This is going to base around the aforementioned what if machine that Professor Farnsworth is going to show up with, and it's a machine you ask it a question, what if, and then it essentially just simulates the situation for you.
What do you mean? I'm not getting it.
So you say, what if machine? What if, say I'm a robot and I ask the machine, like, what if I was human? And then the machine proceeds to tell us a delightful story of debauchery of this debaucherous robot being a human being. Very
He
dope.
looks so weird as a human being too.
I'm not sure
Yeah,
I
right.
get it, but let's continue for the sake of. He looks a lot like Homer Simpson, doesn't he?
A little bit.
Yeah, he
like
does.
somewhere between Homer Simpson and Hank Hill, like
Yeah.
on a sliding scale.
I can't argue this because Futurama is just a better series in any way than The Simpsons, in my view. But also Futurama
I
is
knew,
genius.
I knew I was in Futurama friendly territory, so I didn't anticipate a lot of pushback here.
Good news.
Fry more or less asked the what if machine, what if life were more like video games? And we get a delightful telling of a story of this. They're invaders from space, is how they're referred to. Like in
From Nintendo 64.
Nintendo 64 from the planet Nintendo 64. They come and
Well,
they invade
this sounds
Earth.
a lot like the plot to the classic 2015 movie Pixels.
Yeah, what are the odds?
Yeah, weird how that happens, right? So the invaders, they come to the Earth, they're wrecking a ton of stuff. Fry being like, he's like, the whole reason he asks this question is he's like, I'm bad at everything. The only thing I'm really good at is video games. So the government comes to get Fry's help, much like some plot points in Pixels, I might add. And he's just like, is blasting him, no? He's blasting him, as you can see.
There you
For
go.
those of you watching the video.
He's got a pocket full of quarters.
Yeah.
It's Friday night. He's got no date, a 2-liter bottle of Shasta, and his All Rush mixtape.
Oh, yeah,
No, wait,
man.
my Rush mixtape, All Rush.
Are you telling me? Wow. Are you telling me that something that Matt Groening did was going to be done in the future and ends up being done in the future?
Yeah, that guy's something else. He's a modern day Nostradamus.
Yeah, for real. Well, when you write, 20 million episodes, a couple things are going to line up.
Throw a lot of darts at the wall. So the invader, Fry almost pulls it off. There's one final ship that makes it, and if you know the rules to Space Invaders, that's game over. You can't let the ships hit the ground. Them's the rules, bro. But then they find out the whole reason of the invasion is because the invaders want Earth's quarters. They want a million's allowances worth of quarters because they got a lot of dirty laundry, and it takes quarters to do laundry. But never fret, Earth is not destroyed. They come to an agreement, and the invaders are just going to throw their load in with the Earth people's laundry, and it'll be fine.
Yeah, what a beautiful ending. It's really tight, that ending.
Yeah, besides like the whole a ton of the plot points and the hero and everything being the same as Pixels. There's also some similarities that I noticed, like Donkey Kong being the ambassador of the planet Nintendo 64. He's also the boss in Pixels.
Weird.
He leads the charge, and they both feature Q*bert and a ton of other classic video games.
Pac-Man, I think he's in both of them
Yep.
too. Yeah. Wow.
But Pac-Man's
Are
not
you
a baddie in the Futurama episode. He's actually a pretty funny general. He runs everywhere going waka 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 waka.
And then he dies.
Are you telling me that Hollywood is unoriginal? Is that what you're telling me, Frank?
Yes, and more specifically, Adam Sandler.
Yeah, I remember that whole snafu when that movie was coming out, and everyone was just like, "Wait a second, we've seen this before."
Yeah, you ripped that off, bro.
Yeah. It's a Carlos Mencia situation over here. No, man, I had the same material.
And I don't have any box office numbers for you because that's not how TV works.
Fair enough, but the show did get canceled 5 times, so take that into consideration.
Yeah.
Well, I believe it's that time. It's that time for the number ones, and it's me.
Let's get to the nitty-gritty.
I'm so excited.
You know, this is actually like a small gift, this movie, I feel like. Like, it's too good to exist. It shouldn't exist. It's 2019's Pokemon Detective Pikachu, everybody.
Ooh.
Same number 1 over here.
This is my honorable mention.
Really? I'm curious what Danny's number 1 is. Look, like, first off, Pokemon, I always forget that Pokemon was a game first. That throws me off. Like, everything came from the game, which is nuts. I always thought it was like a cartoon first. But anyway. Yeah, Pokemon is a game first. I am just going to say this before we get into it.
And specifically, Pokemon Detective Pikachu was a game first.
Oh, that's true too.
Oh, yeah.
Pokemon Detective Pikachu is a game. So check this out, everybody. Here is the Blu-ray that I bought from Best Buy. Let me get real close here.
Wow, David, I don't know if that's the best buy you've ever made, but it's a pretty good buy.
Do you guys see this special Pokemon trading card inside a Detective Pikachu?
Hey.
I bought this brand new, and guess what? No Detective Pikachu trading card inside this Blu-ray.
How's the lawsuit going?
Imagine if you were a kid and you bought a box of Cracker Jack and there was no toy in there.
You know,
You hate the toy. You don't even care about the toy, but it's your toy. It needs to be in the box.
I think before we get too far, I have to announce my number 1 because it is Pokemon, the first movie. It's Pokemon, the first movie.
What is this?
That's not how this works.
How dare you? How dare you? First off,
Well, let's just be fair. It's Mewtwo Strikes Back, which is 1998.
so we'll say that our collective number 1s are Pokemon.
Yeah,
That's why.
That's fair.
Both
a
are
fair
Pokemon,
statement.
but also a lot of the plot in Detective Pikachu is borrowed from Mewtwo Strikes Back.
That's fair, but Mewtwo Strikes Back is pretty unwatchable, man. When's the last time you watched that movie?
Not long ago. I actually watched it before I went to sleep.
Oh, really? Okay. I was about to, because like I remember I popped in the DVD because I had a DVD copy. I bought it because it's rare. Like I found it for $1, and I was like, I'm not gonna pass this up. And I started watching that Pikachu short film before.
Oh yeah, Pikachu goes to the beach.
And it's just like him saying Pika for 15 minutes, and then I instantly was like, I am so sorry, Mom and Dad. Like I put you through this for years.
I should probably put this caveat on. I have no problem with that. I think I did when I was a kid more, but I also just rewatched the entire Indigo League
Whoa.
on Netflix, which is a lot of that. Also, the Indigo League is 52 episodes of just gold. Let me just throw this out there. It is prime Japanese made for American audiences anime gold.
Well,
it's not anime.
As someone who just watched like all of Inuyasha last year, I'm in no position to criticize anybody in their anime watching choices.
But I have a bit to get to on Mewtwo Strikes Back, so let's go into Detective Pikachu. I just feel like because there was so much similarity, I had to announce my number 1. So,
well, thank you for your permission, Danny. Thank you.
That's fair, Danny.
Why don't you hit us with the stats, old Stat Daddy, before we get back into this?
All right, it's stat time, y'all. For Detective Pikachu, we got a 6.6 out of 10 on IMDb, a 68% on Rotten Tomatoes. Oh, how close. Just missed it. Box office wise, where you're talking about a budget of $150 million. Opening weekend, gonna make $54 million. Worldwide gross $433 million.
Yes.
So I guess at least what I'm seeing from my stats, 400 million is kind of like the cap for video game movies.
Yeah, I guess because there's only so much audience.
Yeah.
You know, it's got to be pretty. Like, honestly, I feel like Last of Us might be one of those things where people, like my parents who've never, played Last of Us, they might be like, oh, what's this show about? They watched Walking Dead. They might fall for it. But, yeah, Detective Pikachu, I think, you're only going to get a certain audience. But, man, it's a great kids movie. And I think it was perfect for all of us near 30-year-olds. It was like the perfect hit of nostalgia.
I was thinking about that while I was rewatching it. Just like, this is such the best mix. They didn't go too heavy.
So much so that I've done 2 rewatches since I saw it in theaters, and it's great every time.
Yeah, it's beautiful, man. You know, another thing too, I think a lot of times, we talked about this a little bit in this episode, a big struggle is, how do I make this video game character look like believable on screen? Like Resident Evil's got a big problem with that. I mean, most of the movies we talked about today have big problems with that. But man, the Pokemon look so good in this movie.
Perfect.
Oh, yeah. Every time there's a Growlithe on screen, I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Look at the good boy.
And there's also, I love those transition shots where you just see like Pokemon in nature. There's just like a quick shot of just some Pokemon doing their thing.
Well, you know what's another thing that they balance really well in that, David? They balance the fact that it is heavy on the 151, the original 151, but they also bring in up to Gen 3, I think I saw in there. Like
that makes sense, because there's a ton of moments where I'm like, the heck is that thing?
Yeah, like the prominent ones, the ones that play plot devices, like for instance Mr. Mime or something like that, they're all going to be OG Pokemon. So if you're like an original Pokemon fan, you're going to feel right at home. But then it's almost like an ongoing Where's Waldo if you're a diehard Pokemon fan, like, oh, there's Raygon or whatever their stupid names are.
Well, I think they had Torterra, and that's actually like Gen 6. I want to say that's like Pokemon
Those are those
XY.
weird turtle guys, right? The turtles with the mountains on their backs.
Yeah. I think
that's
those are
a
like
perfect name for it. Torterra.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, they're like X and Y, but it's a good balancing act. You can tell that Nintendo took a second to like really think about how to make this the most appealing and do it right for the fans.
Plus, you just get Ryan Reynolds doing his thing the whole time, and still not tired of it yet.
Ryan Reynolds is really good. You know, the only thing that I remember is when this movie was coming out and they announced it was Ryan Reynolds, there was a bunch of people who were like, can we please have Danny DeVito as Detective Pikachu?
Oh my God.
And I feel like that's the only thing that could have made this movie better.
Dude. Yeah, that would have been insane.
Yeah.
Just like a way more gristled version.
Yeah.
The main character is pretty unbearable. I just don't like that man as an actor.
Tim? Like,
is that his name? Yeah, the kid. Yeah. He's okay.
I think he's
I thought he was all right.
You know, I think that the little girl gets on my nerves a little bit more, his young associate.
I think she plays she goes a little bit too hard on like the over caffeined kind of vibe. Like,
yeah, she's like a strung out Hermione. That's her character. Okay, Danny, let's hear your reasoning here for a movie again, Mom and Dad, I'm so sorry that I made you take me to the theater to watch this.
This is a movie that I had on like my short list when I was trying to like narrow down to 6, you know what I mean? This is definitely a movie that I had somewhere floating around in my mind.
I just, a lot of the reasoning is, again, heavy nostalgia, but also I am a Pokemon fanatic. I absolutely love Pokemon. I have Pokemon tattooed on me. I really do.
You would spend your life catching them all if you could.
Yeah, you don't want to see where the tattoo's at.
I've got 2 Voltorbs, and I won't tell you where they are. Let's just. I was deep into Pokemon the moment it came out. I used to play the card game. I used to collect heavy. I remember the promotions leading up. This was a world event. I don't know if you guys remember that, but the first Pokemon movie was like huge. This was, oh my God, did you take your kids to go see Pokemon yet? You know what I mean? Like, this was like, I probably went to go see this movie 3 times in theaters. And before it came out, it was such a promotional event that like you had to also collect it. And then when you go to the box office, you get your one of a kind, like legendary Mewtwo card.
I mean, and even beyond that, like going to Burger King multiple times trying to collect those 24 those like gold-plated cards.
I had all of those, man.
Yeah.
I had an inside scoop. I had a cousin working at Burger King at the time.
Nice. And now Danny's doing the same thing at McDonald's right now. I don't know if you guys heard about that.
No, I heard about that. I didn't check it out yet.
They're giving out Pokemon cards. I actually bought a Happy Meal for Michelle last week, and then I was like, what? I didn't even know that there's Pokemon cards in these things. And I got a holographic Charmander, everybody. It was a great day.
Sick.
It was a great day.
That's a pretty good day.
I'm just saying.
As far as like collecting cards, I've fallen off quite a bit. I haven't collected since like Gen 3 maybe, I do have some holographics still in my Pokemon binder. Negative shout out to my mom for giving away some of my Pokemon cards while I was moved away at college. If you're listening,
I think they call that a condemnation.
You know what hurts me, and I think you have it, Danny. I used to have the Pokedex, the electronic Pokedex. My parents
no, I
got
have
rid of
my
it in the
own
garage sale.
Pokedex. No.
Yeah, I know. I had that same one you had, and I also had a Pokeball that was like a Tamagotchi. You would shake it, and then you opened it up, and there was like a Pikachu. No, it wasn't a Pikachu. I think you got a.
Well, there's a little model
guy.
Yeah, there's a little model in there. Like you can just click the button, and the top flops up, and it has like I had like a Squirtle in there or something like that.
No, this one wasn't a model. It was a little LCD screen, like a Tamagotchi, but it was in the shape of a Pokeball. And it was so cool. My parents got rid of it. And it's super expensive now. I wish I still had it.
I still have all of my Pokemon cards that I have currently are in my original Pokemon binder, which is a Pokedex.
Pretty sick.
Whoa, dude. Okay, let's battle.
It's really awesome. I used to love it. I used to love the game. I actually think there's a site you can pay to pay. I mean, you can pay to play the Pokemon card game on, and I really want to try and get back into that. That being said, I mean, it was one of the best cinematic experiences I've ever had. And then also, it's still a good movie. I just watched it not long ago. I watched both the original animated version, and I watched the one that Netflix put out surprisingly out of nowhere. That was like the complete CGI rendition of Mewtwo Strikes Back.
Isn't that when Pikachu speaks English at the end of that thing? Or is that a different movie?
Weird.
That is a little strange. It's like, Ash, I love you.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I didn't even like hearing you do that.
Burn it with throw it out with the bathwater. I was going to say burn it with the bathwater. I don't even know what that means.
Bathwater doesn't burn very well.
Well, unless you're working in the oil field.
However, it's just probably my favorite. It's got to be my favorite movie based on a video game. I can still watch it, and I think it's fun. And it's awesome.
I don't think this movie holds up, man. I think if you had never seen it before and you watched it today, you'd be like, why'd you guys make me watch this?
Oh,
I feel
definitely.
like I have to watch it now.
Let's watch it right after this. I have the DVD. Let's watch it.
They're both. I think they're both on Netflix, so you can watch
drink
it
for every. We'll make a drinking game out of it. We'll drink for every Pika.
Oh no! But
I will say, if you've never watched the Indigo League, which is the first animated series of Pokemon, you should watch it. It's great. And it holds up really well.
You know what? I'm gonna even go because I tried watching Pokemon a little while ago. I wasn't into it, but again, I watched all of Inuyasha. Something's wrong with me.
Did you guess all those Pokemon?
I did. I got most of them, but man,
I skipped the poker rap. I always skip the poker rap.
You got to skip it after a while. My recommendation, man, is that Pokemon manga. The adaptation of Pokemon is so funny, and it's got a lot of like adult-esque humor in it. It's very different tone than the TV show.
They're so rare to come across now, though, David. Like, I had those hard copies of them. Yeah, I had those hard copies. I used to buy it when I was young. And the art style of it is great. It's like really well-made manga. And the stories are great. I think some of them carry over into the animated series, but not many. But it's, I agree. Super fire.
I used to have a few single issues, and I don't have them anymore. I do still have my single issue movie adaptation of Mewtwo Strikes Back. I have the comic book adaptation of that movie, although it's really lazy. It's just screenshots of the movie, cut into comic book panels. It looks terrible. Okay. This has been so confusing. Is this everyone? We've done it all.
Yeah, that's the end of the list.
Wow.
Yeah, we did it. I'm
glad we ended with Pokemon.
Any honorable mentions?
Not that it haven't been discussed already for me.
Do you want to go first, Danny? I have a.
If I may.
Here.
My first honorable mention is Pokemon 2000 because I love it almost just as much as Pokemon.
Okay, let's skip this. Let's skip the segment.
Also, Detective Pikachu was my honorable mention. And then Rampage, which was 2017. I don't know if you guys saw that with Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
I didn't catch it.
I didn't.
It's actually not bad.
I was nervous.
Well
as I was telling David before we started recording, I learned trying to pick things for this list that I've seen so many bad video game based movies that like when one comes out, I'm like, maybe we should skip it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll watch it on Netflix one day.
Yeah.
You watch the trailer and you're like, oh God, I don't know if I want to watch that. I did love Rampage. Yeah. I've always loved Rampage. So I did see it, and it's actually not bad. It's a watchable movie. I'd say 6.5 out of 10, maybe. It's really fun. I'll let you go on to your honorable mentions before I do my dishonorable mentions.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't think I have any dishonorable mentions. Well, I mean, there's just so many, right? Honorable mentions, and this is kind of halfway, to be honest. No, it's honorable. It's the Ratchet and Clank movie, which no one knows about. It's a remake. It's an adaptation of the original Ratchet and Clank story, and then they made a remake of the video game based on the movie after it came out.
Weird.
Yeah, so like on PS4, there's a Ratchet and Clank that's a remake of the first game, but it's really an adaptation of the film that remakes the first game.
Wow.
Okay, so
that's not
think
confusing.
about that for a second. That's why it's an honorable mention right off the bat.
Yeah, I got a tiny bit of a headache.
But I do have to say, they keep the voice actors of Ratchet and Clank. So
that's cool.
When you watch the movie, it's right there. I mean, if you've played Ratchet and Clank, you know it's hilarious. If you haven't played Ratchet and Clank, you probably owe it to yourself. Check it out. Really creative game design. But overall, pretty decent movie. The only thing is, it's just kind of forgettable. And you know what? I got rid of it after I watched it. I had bought it at Savers for like $2 or something. And then after I watched it, Michelle and I were like, well, we'll just play Ratchet and Clank.
Like, we're never going to watch this again, right?
Yeah. Like, Ratchet and Clank's not that long, and it's awesome. Why not just play it? Anyway.
Yeah, I never actually got into Ratchet and Clank. I should play it. I just never played it.
Yeah, it's really good. And I think PS2, there's like a trilogy of them on PS2 that are just strong, like really good games. They just keep getting better and better.
Ooh, side note. Oh, sorry. I just put a quick side note. I just downloaded the Reignited trilogy of Spyro, and I've been ripping through it, and it's amazing.
Ooh, how delightful.
That's cool. I've been wanting to do the Crash one.
Same.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
really
just finished
both of those.
Yeah. Dang, okay, I got to do it. The next one I have is The Wizard with Fred Savage.
Wow, there's a lot of that. I'm not familiar with that glove at all, but it seems quite powerful to me, David.
Yeah, bro, that's the power glove right there. Power glove.
Oh my God.
If you're a Horse the Band fan, you've maybe heard that reference.
Ooh, David, stop.
And then do you guys know who this is? This young lady here next to Fred Savage?
Is that
no.
Michelle?
That's Jenny Lewis, y'all.
Weird.
Of Rilo Kiley fame.
Weird.
Postal Service?
Strange. This is Postal Service. This is a weird movie, guys. It's basically the story about this little kid who's really good at video games. So he runs away to join a big giant video game tournament. And the end of the movie is just like this tournament that should not exist. It's so over the top. And this is essentially like an hour and a half long Nintendo promo. It's just like a bunch of shots of the whole family sitting around playing the NES.
That's not how it works.
Oh my God.
It's so bad. It's so bad, but I love it. I love it dearly. I think it's a made-for-TV movie. I feel like it's not even or maybe it was. I'm not sure. Christian Slater shows up in this thing too. It's ridiculous. This is 110% ridiculous, but if you grew up playing the NES and you've never experienced the bizarreness that's the Wizard, it's definitely worth watching.
So, you started working for Sabre. It's time to taste the rainbow at Sabre. Sorry, Christian Slater. He's in that promotional video of The Office.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Amazing.
Was that a Super Bowl commercial or what?
No,
this?
it's for The Office.
It's from The Office.
Oh, it's from The Office.
Yeah,
I
same.
thought they
it's
meant I thought they made like a commercial of like pretending it's The Office. I don't know. I'm so confused right now. I've never seen this. I'll have to check that out.
Sorry, I had to throw that in there.
And then the last thing I have as a honorable mention is a movie I've never seen. And it's 2006's Animal Crossing, the movie. It only came out in Japan. It's an anime. It's got the composer of Animal Crossing on the soundtrack, so you know it's going to be bumping.
That's beautiful.
Nintendo was just like,
KK himself.
we're never releasing it in the United States. So it's been there. You can find a fan dub if you search Reddit.
We'll have to look for it if we finally make it over there.
Apparently,
You know what I didn't realize?
It's like a bit of a non-plot, but, I just want to see Tom Nook.
The Animal Crossing composer, I didn't realize that he was the one that also composed the Wii Sports and Wii theme.
Oh, wow.
The Mii theme. Didn't know
bunch
that.
of bangers.
Boop, boop, bop, bop, bop. That is good stuff.
Ugh,
That makes sense. But yeah, I wouldn't notice it either. Okay, so Danny, what are these dishonorable mentions?
A couple of them are on y'all's list. I think I may have said it. Doom. Also, House of the Dead.
Yikes.
What else? Every Paul W.S. Anderson movie after. I mean, obviously, I have two. No, I have one. But then every Resident Evil movie after the first one. And Prince of Persia, Sands of Time. Had to put that on there.
Dang.
Do not watch.
Is the Prince of Persia movie called Sands of Time?
It is.
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
it's the Jake Gyllenhaal one.
So then they bring in the whole time traveling thing in the movie then, I guess.
Yeah, and then there's also an Assassin's Creed movie. I don't know if you guys saw that with Michael Fassbender.
I'm aware of it,
there
but
it
I
is.
did not see it.
Wait.
No, it's Prince of Persia.
That's Prince of, it's confusing because Assassin's Creed and Prince of Persia look very similar aesthetically.
Very interchangeable.
Michael Fassbender's in Assassin's Creed. Poor Michael
Which
Fassbender.
I don't know
what a bad
how.
choice. Dude,
Maybe he owed somebody a favor.
what were you thinking? I would hope he had to pay off a new car or something.
Too fun. What an amazing list, y'all.
Yeah. So we've really run through this topic. You know, we did movie-based video games, video game-based movies. Like, what else do we have left?
It would be hard for us to do another one, but I bet we could force something.
What about, like, video games that give a movie-like experience?
Ooh, most cinematic video games?
Yeah,
That's
whoa.
pretty great. That's
Most
pretty good.
movie-esque video games?
That's
Okay.
how you shoehorn a segment.
Let's do it. Okay.
Ooh, how exciting. How exciting to get to our next segment, Character Limit Extended. Yes. How exciting. We're talking about our latest CLE venture, My Bloody Valentine.
It was so bad.
Yeah, this one is pretty bad.
It's in a very specific subgenre, you know what I mean? If you really want to whittle it down to what it is, it's like a schlocky, campy slasher.
Yeah.
Or holiday slasher. We'll even toss that in there.
Even one more.
Yeah.
I was waiting for like the sleepaway camp caveat, if you will, of it.
You were waiting
of
for
watching that movie. Yeah, I was like, make it worth it. What's gonna make this worth it? Nothing made it worth it.
Well, I'm curious to know like what version you watched because you ordered it off Amazon.
Yeah, I watched the 1980 whatever it is.
The Amazon version is the same version that we watched. It's
Okay.
also the nerfed one.
This is like a crazy thing, guys.
So you need to go down a little YouTube rabbit hole to really appreciate this one from the version that you watched.
Yeah, man. And honestly, what I would recommend is a YouTuber that I love. You should watch the Kill Count on Dead
Kill
Meat.
Count.
Just watch Kill Count on this movie, and there are all these scenes that got taken out, including the ending. Which, just to jump to the end, we get the reveal that one of the people is the killer. And in the version we watch, which is like really edited, there's a cave in. Then they're trying to see him, and then he runs out the back, and that's the end of the movie. And you're like, what?
Yeah, it's a weird end.
Yeah.
In the real version, they cut the scene out. They cut it out of the ending. The cave-in happens. He's stuck in there. His arm is coming out of the rocks. And when the arm comes out, he tries to choke the girl again, and she chops his arm off.
Sick.
And then so he's running away like doing his whoop, 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 but with like missing an arm. And the way it's edited, you can't even tell. It just looks like...
I could tell that he was missing an arm.
Oh, really?
But I assumed it had just like gotten crushed by a rock or something.
It's so weird that they would cut that scene out. But I don't know. That's after I did like a little bit of research, I felt like I was like, man, I wish I hadn't watched this version at all. I wish I just like ordered the Blu-ray because it's like 10 minutes of footage is taken out of the movie and it's all of the kills. And on a lot of the kills, it doesn't even make sense in the movie anymore. In the edit of the movie, it loses all its meaning because you don't even know what happens.
Yeah,
it's like dark and off screen. So
there was no substance to watch. But I'd also seen the 2009 remake of it, and I actually enjoyed the remake more. But yeah, I don't know. I'll probably have to go check out the Kill Count then.
I haven't seen the remake.
I haven't seen the remake. I've only seen like a trailer or something. I wouldn't mind checking it out. Just had maybe next Valentine's Day. But shoot, man, I would just say like, don't even try watching it if it's not the full cut.
Yeah, because this is a movie that I would enjoy. This is something I would be into. When we pitched it, I found out what it was. I was like, yeah, down. Let's do this. Originally, when I was going to write my review, it was going to be in a different light until David hit us with the 411 about the deleted scenes. Watched it, and that killed a lot of my complaints. My biggest complaints were like not getting to see the good stuff. There wasn't enough good stuff. But knowing that they took the initiative to put the good stuff in it, but the MPAA gutted that bad boy.
Like they do.
I liked it, man. I can't wait to watch it in its entirety with all the kills in there. It'll be fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's what you really need. Because the kills are solid. Like if you like, Sleepaway Camp or Friday the 13th. It's right up that alley. But one thing I really like about the movie is the lore. We've been using that word a lot this episode, but the lore of the village and like its story, it's so convoluted, but it's like, it's beautiful. It's like this guy got trapped underground on Valentine's Day. So now he hates Valentine's Day. And I was telling Frank, we're watching this movie. It was like, what if these people just decided, you know what? Let's celebrate on February 15th. And let's not call it Valentine's Day. Let's call it like Love Day. So you've put this serial killer out of business. Now he's got nothing to do anymore. You should have thought ahead, little town of Valentine. Come on, get it together.
Before we move,
this is really a movie about gross negligence.
Definitely.
Yeah,
a lot like Jaws. Before we move on from this, I had to say, as far as recommendations on things to watch and something we've been wanting to watch for a while, David, I have to give you good news. I was finally able to find Dead Alive / Brain Dead from 1992.
Oh, hey.
It is
good on you,
It
bro.
is 100% for free on YouTube right now.
Really?
Yeah, I watched it all on YouTube. It was amazing.
Dang. Yeah, isn't that movie? That movie is nutty, dude. There's a couple scenes in that movie where you're like, what is happening now? Like, what's going on?
It's nuttier than like Evil Dead 2. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it is.
Yeah, it is.
It is all over the place. It's super gross. It's just the grossest movie I've seen. I don't know how they pulled together so much money for the practical effects. Like I don't know how they did it because there's so many practical effects and so much goop.
It's more blood than I think I've ever seen in a movie. Like when you talk about like buckets of blood, it's like, well, maybe Evil Dead 2. That's the only other one I can think of that goes that far.
Frank, have you seen Dead Alive?
No, I haven't.
Oh man!
All right,
I saw it.
You should watch it.
I saw it on lists while I was like researching all of this, trying to find ideas, and I thought maybe I could get into that.
You should give it a watch. We should do a CLE on it sometime or something because it is worth talking about. This movie's great.
It is good stuff.
Does anybody have anything else on that
I was
one?
gonna say, I think My Bloody Valentine is pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a ton there. You know what I mean? Just fun, slasher, campy. If you're into that kind of thing, you might dig it. If you're not, you'll hate it.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
All right, so that'll take us to. Oh, that's interesting.
We live in a society.
Wow. Okay. So we
I
just
can't
finished
believe he
watching
said the line.
Yeah, he said it. Oh, ha! We had the literal Leonardo DiCaprio meme while we were watching this trailer. Wow. Okay. So what did you guys think of the Justice League, the Snyder Cut?
I'm gonna not watch it as much as I did the original cut.
I was just gonna say, you guys haven't even watched the original, right?
No. As far as I've gotten is Man of Steel. I watched Man of Steel and I said, this was too much, and then that's it. I never went further.
That's funny. They over on Apollo City Comics, they have a commentary of Man of Steel coming up, and and
he does.
Batman versus Superman, and Brandon was like, hey, you can have these passcodes so you don't have to like pay to watch them. And I was like, oh no, I'm not gonna watch those. Like, don't even worry about it.
Yeah, Man of Steel is awful.
I have seen all of the DC universe up to this point. Okay. And I'm not a huge DC fan. I like DC stuff, but also it comes with part of like having lived around Brandon much and just like having to watch things with Brandon. But
Just
then
him
I
not
also,
shutting up about anything ever.
I bought into the hype machine that Brandon created from saying, hey man, you should watch. I was like, man, Batman v Superman sucked. And he's just like, you know what? Yeah, man, the one they put in theaters really did suck, but you should watch the extended cut though. And so I bought into it and I watched that extended cut or whatever. That was like 4 hours long, which was unbearable and did not make the movie any better.
You know, if you have a 2.5 hour long movie and then someone's like, yeah, the movie's really bad, but you know what? Watch that version where they add an extra hour. It's like, no. Adding more is not going to fix the situation. The 2.5 that you have is bad already.
This only works in the case that the movie is a good movie. In like the case of Blade Runner. You know what I mean?
You like Fellowship of the Ring? Here's another hour and a half. It's like,
yes,
you.
Give it.
Thank you. Yes, Peter Jackson. I'll take another.
But HBO Max is throwing, I mean, Warner Brothers in general is throwing so much money into this cut. Like it's just going to save the entire DCEU. And it's like the same movie with like 10 minutes of extra footage. It's
well, I feel like they might have added in some good stuff, like a good amount of stuff, because Joker's not in the Justice League, right?
No. Apparently he was, but they cut it all out or something like that. I don't know. Jared Leto's been a whiny something about it.
This is some of that George Lucas nonsense that I just don't believe when people say it. Like when George Lucas was like, oh yeah, I had already written the prequels when I did 4, 5, and 6. It's like, no, you didn't, dude.
Lies.
Obviously you didn't. Like, and the Joker thing, he doesn't have his tattoos on him anymore, I guess because they just got laughed out of the room. They should have just got really confusing and just put Joaquin Phoenix in it.
Yeah.
And just pretended like the other one didn't never happen or something.
It's just not a good movie. And I watched the Justice League. I saw it in theaters, and I think I've watched it since then, and it's just not. It doesn't have the same effect that something like a well-polished Marvel movie does. But it sucks because I like the DC characters too. I think they're awesome. I think if they had stuck with something like doing the Injustice storyline or something, they could have really come along. But it's just not well done, and it's boring. It's too long. It's too long. Cut it down.
It's also a little funny that it's like you get these movies after the perfect Dark Knight trilogy from Christopher Nolan. And it's like, well, I mean, there was nowhere to go but down.
Yeah, like I hate Batman, not a DC fan. Those movies are good.
Yeah, those are good. Those are good movies, man.
Those are some of my favorite movies. This movie's going to tank.
The black suit Superman too. That's not in Justice League, is it? Is that new as well? Because I'm pretty sure that's, if I have my comic book knowledge correct, I'm pretty sure that's like Death of Superman. That's like post that arc when he comes back. It's something like,
I think that does happen in the original Justice League cut, if I do remember.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, I really don't know a lot about this, but I just don't understand. Well, people really like these movies if they're into that style, if they're like diehard Zack Snyder fans. And that's the funny thing. I think when this movie comes out, there's going to be so many people, no matter how bad and unconnected and just flat out boring it is, there's going to be a bunch of people who are like, yeah, man, like Zack Snyder, he's who we needed to fix that Joss Whedon. Joss Whedon's the worst. He was trying to sabotage him because he really likes Avengers more.
You keep your Disney stuff over there. We've got our hardcore edgelord Zack Snyder.
It's like these guys just like money. That's what they enjoy. That's what they're here for. The money.
That's why they show
up. Yeah, they're gonna get those subscriptions. It looks bad. It looks just like the same movie I saw for Justice League 1, except it's got Jared Leto in it now. Jared Leto's not a good Joker, and he just needs to like fess up to it. Just own it. Like,
there's plenty of other roles he's good at.
Yeah,
just keep doing stuff like that.
Great actor. Who knows? Maybe this is his last chance to save the role. If this is a bad portrayal of Joker again, it's like, no, dude, just go away. Just stop. It's rare
He
for
just-
someone to do it like 3 times.
He keeps going on the record just being like, yeah, they robbed me of it. I swear I was the greatest. It was great. Trust me. It's like, was it?
We'll see, bro.
Yeah, because that's what it was for Suicide Squad too, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I had all these other scenes that got cut from the movie. It's like interesting. Seems
Which
like you guys are having a
apparently
real editing
They
issue
just
over
wrapped.
DC.
Apparently, they just wrapped on the new Suicide Squad, the James Gunn one, too.
Oh, to not get confusing, it's called Suicide Squad.
That's not confusing at all.
Yeah, and just to make it, it's a reboot with one of the same people in the same role. Just not to get weird or anything.
They're like, no, forget about that other one.
You got to tell us, Frank, if Apollo City Comics does, if they do a trailer discussion of this movie, and then we'll cut them, and I'll edit it together like it's 6 people having a conversation when it was, you know what I mean?
Who knows? Maybe it's sitting for me in the Dropbox right now. I'll have to look.
It could line up.
Yeah.
There's no way to know until we just try. So
Well, it's going to be a stark comparison between us just crapping all over this and Brandon just
And
being like,
those
"Dude,
nerds being like,
funny.
oh.
Although I think Brandon's been pretty critical of the DC movies.
I don't know. I try not to listen.
Fair. Fair. Is the quality okay? All right, let's move on.
Man, Brandon just missed the last episode of Apollo City Comics because he was celebrating his graduation. Congratulations, Brandon.
Oh, hey,
Congratulations, Brandon.
Good job, bud. He graduated second in his class.
hey,
Wow.
congrats.
Wow.
Right? Good job, bud. But anyways, it wasn't on it. They had like a weird history lesson. It was just other Brandon and a dear friend of theirs, Kamran. Best Apollo City Comics episode ever. It was fantastic.
That's
Wonder
awesome.
what that missing ingredient was.
Yeah, I don't know. Like they just need to take account of like the changes they made. The cool like weird history stuff for the first 45 minutes was really dope, and then whatever other stuff they changed for the episode. Good stuff.
It's exciting knowing that Brandon will never listen to these. You know what I mean? That
we can
makes it
just
even
dunk
more
on
fun.
him at any time we want.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
best.
Okay,
I need to start like hiding stuff in his apartment whenever I get back over there, and then just telling him where it is on the podcast.
that is good.
He'll just think it was Roscoe though.
How did Roscoe get my car keys in this vent? All right. Is that? I mean, any other?
I mean, that's I mean, I got nothing to say other than like poo poo. Who cares?
Yeah,
Miss me
basically.
with that.
Biting
Yeah.
commentary. Perfect.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to watch it when it comes out, but
One of us has to. So yeah, I'm glad that you're
Someone's gotta do it. Thank
falling
you,
on
Danny.
that sword, man. I don't want to do it.
yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. I don't want the like 12 hours of required viewing before it either. None of that sounds enjoyable.
Well, folks, that's going to bring us to our final segment, the last one. Peeps and predicts, everybody. The delightful, hypothetical debate, sometimes just straight up agreement segment, where we pit 2 characters, fictional or real, together and pit them in situations or predicaments, if you will. And David, I believe you have the peep jar, correct?
I do. Our peeps for today are Royal Tenenbaum versus Steve Zissou.
Fantastic. Couple not so great fathers up in this B. And their first predicament: who is more likely to hold a high score on an arcade machine?
Ooh,
Steve Zissou.
Steve,
Oh, wait.
yeah, Steve Zissou.
I don't know. Royal Tenenbaum seems like he's down for just some frolicking around and good timing.
Yeah. He might be real good. He has some talents. He has some hidden talents.
I bet Steve Zissou likes video games, but he's not very good at them.
You know, something else too. Where's Steve Zissou playing an arcade cabinet? I mean, most of his time is spent on the boat.
I don't think he stole one from from the sea base.
Yeah, I don't
And
think
you know
so.
what?
Was there one
I would argue that Royale with cheese Tenenbaum
with cheese?
has had more experience working with slot machines and casinos, so he might have some arcade experience.
He's closer to an arcade. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just slightly.
It is an arcade.
This is tough because I honestly feel like neither one of these characters would be an arcade gamer.
Yeah, I don't think their likelihood of being an arcade gamer is high. I think the big factor for me, as I stated before, is the fact that Steve Zissou, his whole kind of thing is like aspiring for greatness but falling short. Like, I think he would have like the third high score.
Yeah. I'm in agreement. Let's go Royal Tenenbaum.
Delightful. 1 point for Royal. Our next predicament.
2 out of 3.
That's how it works. That's the way everything should be settled. Who's more likely to adopt an orphan with behavioral issues?
Well,
Royal Tenenbaum for sure.
Royal Tenenbaum. This is what happens when you write them according to certain movies. Sometimes this is what happened. Okay, so there it is. It's Royal Tenenbaum.
That was an easy one because Steve's just going to be like,
No, he doesn't even want the kid who's actually his.
Yeah. Allegedly.
Allegedly. So that means Royal Tenenbaum is going into our finals with William Shatner, everyone.
This is a fist fight that I would watch for sure.
Yeah, I'd be down.
I know Royal Tenenbaum would win against William Shatner, though. Because he fights dirty.
But Goda might pop in and stab him.
A Wes Anderson fighting game?
Yeah, dude.
That'd be crazy. But Goda's your assist.
Who is more likely to hire based on nepotism?
Well, Royal Tenenbaum, if anything, I don't know if he would hire his own kid.
That was going to be my argument as well.
Yeah.
He's much more likely to embezzle money from his own kid's company.
Or like hire him and then not pay him and make up a reason why he had to fire him. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
he's not...
Exactly.
There'd have to be something in it for him.
Yeah. He's... where Steve Zissou would, because he'd be like, I don't have to pay him that much.
Yeah,
This is perfect.
true. But William Shatner, I think, is also... I would imagine him being a man prone to nepotism.
Yeah,
I guess
definitely.
You can give the hookup to a familial
Enterprise,
connection.
if you will.
Yeah.
Enterprise.
If he was going against Francis Ford Coppola, I mean, this would be hands down. But I still think it's going to go to William Shatner.
Shatner. Yeah, and he's got some children's. Melanie Shatner, Elizabeth Shatner, and Leslie Carroll Shatner, everyone. Oh, hang on. And Melanie Shatner is an actress, and she's in Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, who's directed by William Shatner, everybody.
There you go, folks.
Definitive.
The proof
On record.
is in the pudding.
There it is. A bunch of pudding just for all y'all.
Bowls and bowls of pudding.
Does that mean Bill Shatner wins again?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, that's two-time champion Bill Shatner.
He's Captain Kirk. He's ready for it, y'all.
Wow, good job, Billy Boy. Pulling it through. Beam us up.
And
Yeah.
speaking of beaming us up, why don't you beam us on up to your preferred, social media platform? You know what I'm saying? Get in there and open up that communicator and hit that like button, hit that share, hit that subscribe.
Give us that
follow us on
Apple
Instagram.
podcast review. If you're going to give us a review, it helps out a lot.
Those are very helpful.
Check us out on Instagram at Uninformed Movie Reviews, where this lovely gentleman posts some wonderful content. He's fantastic at it. Be sure to check out the rest of our channel for Apollo City Comics. And thanks for staying tuned.
Yeah, and keep your eyes peeled on other platforms. CLE coming to Snapchat soon. Who knows? Maybe coming soon.
CLE on Final Fantasy Spirits Within. Check that social media platforms. It's coming very soon.
Gross.